September 15th, I'm beginning to run into that date. That September 15th marks the end of the 120-day period.
So
August 15th marks it?
September 15th.
September 15th, okay.
That's
so
when we need to file legal documents.
I know we're trying to squeeze as much time as physically possible out of this, so with that in mind, you're saying, so August 31st is the last,
That's as late as I would go with a special town meeting.
okay, so we're talking then the 24th through the 31st?
Yep.
I would like to make a motion to move to move the town meeting to a Tuesday night, either the 22nd or the 29th.
Why?
Because
We make it too late, that won't fit in the schedule.
that would fit mine too. The 29th is better than the
My
31st,
vacation
going into the
schedule.
long weekend, right?
The
Yes.
chair has no objection. How does
Is
anybody
the
feel
chair
about that?
seconding that?
I'll second that. The 29th is fine with me. But again, there are many
Families
other
are
parties
back
involved.
from vacation, when
Yeah.
school starts,
That week?
Yeah, that's why we were thinking anything earlier, we're always at risk,
Yeah.
but kids
So
are
I
back
think
at that
the-
point.
attendance
The
might.
29th would be a good day, don't you?
You
All
okay
those
with
in
that?
favor?
Fine with me.
John, you
I think
okay
it's
with that
good.
too?
Yeah,
that's fine.
All right. So, so Joyce is making a motion, I've seconded it to set the date for the special town meeting to be held on August 29th, which is a Tuesday evening. We do need to double check with the schools for a venue, right? Okay. Okay, all in favor?
So,
Oh, hang on.
so that means you're signing the warrant on August 9th. So that's
Which
2
would
weeks from
be
now.
Next week, no, 2 weeks.
2 weeks from now.
2
Okay.
weeks. So it wouldn't matter whether we make a decision or not, we're not gonna have the borings until then anyway. So if we
Correct.
voted on it right now,
We're voting on
We're
the
just
special
voting on
town
the
meeting.
town
no,
meeting,
I'm
yeah.
just, he's still trying to back into it when you're gonna have the information available
Oh, yeah.
from the different departments so that we have everything so that we can vote on it.
Probably be about the week before town meeting, we'll
Yeah.
have that. So we'll have to schedule a fire meeting, probably the 22nd.
But we
so-
need to post 2 weeks in advance, don't we?
Yes, you do.
Not the week in advance, we need to post 2 weeks in
Right.
advance. So it's not the week before, it's gotta be 2 weeks before.
2 weeks before what?
The town meeting. You have to post.
It's 48 hours. you
We need
post.
your information back from the board.
Right, which would be around that,
Around the 21st.
around the 21st, so we'll have a meeting on the 22nd.
And
We'll have
when's
a select
the-
board meeting on the 23rd.
And when's town meeting?
The 29th.
How's that 2 weeks before, the posting?
Oh, you have to have it 2 weeks before?
So you're talking August 16th is the Wednesday prior.
Mhm.
And we won't have the borings by then?
You can hope that you will and just schedule it.
Yeah,
Bill?
still scheduled.
Yeah, but right now we're talking about scheduling it, and then I think we were again hoping to have some sort of information session, and by then, we would certainly
Yeah.
wanna have all the information, but that could be the week before.
Well, I want the recommendation from the subcommittee so that we can, make some decisions ourselves.
Could I suggest this course of action? That on the 9th or the 16th would, on the 9th, you would be signing your warrant. You may find that your recommendation is silent on that article, but you need to set it up so that you can take the vote.
Prior to-
And then when on the town meeting floor, you can say, okay, this information which we're looking for is now in hand, and it supports or does not support the purchase of this property.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, it's not perfect, but I'm comfortable at this point
Yeah,
making that course of action,
Yeah.
yeah.
sounds like a plan.
Okay, as a board, we're meeting on the 2nd, and what's the 9th?
The 9th and
Yeah.
the 23rd,
The 23rd also?
yeah. We
Okay.
have 3 meetings in August.
Would it be more beneficial not to meet on the 9th and go to the date in between?
I think we need to keep,
What we have, you think, is to
Yeah.
work it out? Okay, that's fine.
Are you guys gonna try to meet
'Cause we wanna
before
do
that in the
one.
next couple of weeks, Donald?
What is that?
You're gonna try to meet in the next couple of weeks, or?
The fire subcommittee? Yeah, I would definitely say so.
Good.
That's what the fire chief said. He's
All right.
heading it up now.
Well, he's going on vacation, so I will text him tomorrow morning and ask him.
Okay,
Set a
just
meeting
try
date.
to set up a meeting date.
If there's
If
That'll
anything
fit in there, that's fine.
And building committee, you guys meeting in the next couple of weeks?
Next
had
week,
nothing
Tuesday.
scheduled, but,
Yeah,
I
can
mean,
we-
point of clarification, we did meet, and we were in favor of that, the purchase of that property, but I don't think any of us were sworn in. even
But
if-
nobody knows anything about the borings there. You guys are waiting for the borings
No, we have to
information.
wait for
You're not
that.
buying it without understanding that info.
Yeah.
No, but again, I think that generally they're in favor
In
of
favor of
pursuing
the-
it.
Right.
Idealistically,
Yeah.
yes.
Just as-
Idealistically,
as
yes.
The first time, but,
Okay.
like I said, I don't think we're even sworn in if we did vote.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, so motion made and seconded to set the special town meeting for August 29th. All in favor?
Aye.
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 7
Okay.
PM.
7 PM, venue.
Does that work for you?
determined. Well,
6
Go
PM?
6, Jerry, 6 is good too.
6 is
let's-
good too?
We can have further discussion, but let's double check with the school before we do anything.
Okay.
Right, right, I'll bring it back if there's an issue.
Okay.
We can find some place for it, I'm sure.
Okay, anything else for discussion specific to the Hoynoski property? No? Donald's thinking, I can tell.
No, I'm thinking of something else.
Oh, okay.
Ahead
Oh,
of
you're
time,
staying
yeah.
one step ahead then. Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
no, that's fine.
If not, then the next item, we have an update from the fire substation and senior center. I see several faces that seem to be affiliated with the library building project as well. So
You guys
maybe
trying to
we
get
can-
out of here to get to a party?
Well, no, it's going on, you can
It
hear it
is,
from
yes.
here.
We're really
We're
here
just-
in case you have any questions.
Right.
Yeah. So why don't,
Others were coming, so we just thought we'd be.
since all parties are involved in this warrant, why don't we, allow you, I know that you got a good opportunity to talk about where things stand right now. So again, we can separate fact from fiction and all that good stuff. So, fire substation, I think you've basically provided the update, which is you haven't
Are
met
we
yet.
gonna be taking any votes tonight on these warrant articles in support or not in support?
I was not planning on it, but that's up
Okay.
to if
I
the
guess
board
what I
wants to.
would like, a request
Mhm,
for our August 2nd meeting
mhm,
with the tri-board,
mhm.
extending that time from 1 hour to 1.5 and start our regular meeting a little later.
Mhm.
Because then we can invite the Building Needs Committee, the Capital, whoever would be interested in these 4 articles. The Council on Aging, the library, for a joint discussion.
That's-
If we're gonna have to render votes, I would like to hear from all people involved.
Sure, David, we don't have any scheduled appointments right now on the second, do we?
You have one with an appeal from Mr. Joe Eckerly for the tap rooms, but that's not a timed appointment.
An appeal.
Okay.
An appeal, he's appealing 3 things. He's appealing the classification of his liquor license, he's appealing the price of the liquor license, and he's appealing that his liquor license should be prorated.
Okay, but again, it's not a timed appointment, so
Right,
if
we can-
Donald, we can take as much time as we want on trying.
Okay, I didn't know, but we have our meeting set for 7 o'clock normally for starting our selectmen's meeting. We allot 1 hour. That's what we've been doing.
Sure, but we can
But
let it spill over.
I would anticipate it to go longer,
Mhm.
as it has in the past,
Sure.
and I think there's a lot of questions financially, how the warrant article is gonna affect the whole town as a whole, and it's 218, 219 budget, and, our ominous budget, and if we spend all kinds of money on warrant articles ahead of time when it comes to our operating budget, I'm very afraid that no one's gonna support an override that's gonna be definitely needed for our operating budget, so we don't have to begin to lay off teachers, firemen, policemen. That would be the worst scenario we could face, and any information that we can get out to the general public in open meeting to discuss all of this would be a
Are we
good process, I think.
Are we gonna have a free cash number by then? Hopefully.
I think that you'll have an idea of what your free cash is, but I would expect free cash to be certified sometime in mid-August.
So we should be close.
15th close? Well,
Yeah.
not the second, the second's not though.
23rd, definitely, we should know.
Yeah. Okay, so we'll make sure that the agenda reads that way, Donald, but I have no
Mhm.
problem at all, like just holding open tri-board until, to your point, there's nothing more important right now until it's, people are comfortable that the conversation's been exhausted.
Yeah, we know what the situation is with the schools for 2018 and all the money they had to take out of school choice just to balance their budget and basically level fund it. Now we're looking at 219
Well,
with.
are we, when we go to this meeting on the tri-board, are we doing a whole budget process, or are you looking to do
I'm looking to
conversation on
open it
these?
up a little bit more
Wow.
so the general taxpayers know what they're up against. It's easy to vote these warrant articles through, and then we're confronted with the aftermath, how it's gonna affect our operating budget,
I mean,
which
we're-
might be
Well,
too
we-
late.
We don't even know yet
You know.
the impact, per household on all of these.
Well, I think
articles
that's
that are
what I would
coming up
like,
too,
part of
so-
it to be, with Linda here and figuring those figures out, because I think everybody has those questions,
Yeah, too many moving
including
parts right
me.
You know,
You know, I've got some answers, but, you know, I don't wanna make statements that aren't true. I wanna have factual statements, you know, from,
We don't
our
have-
treasurer.
But we don't have the numbers yet. That's
now.
Well, I
the-
think we're
he's-
close
he's just
enough on things, you know, to
saying, yeah,
work,
let's get everybody in
you
the
know.
same room at the same time.
Exactly.
John, you want to say something?
Nothing. Jerry, I mean, we've got this $95 that we've been working around that we know is not gonna be a real solid number anymore now that we've added all these increases in the library. And, you know, the 3 buildings are gonna be dead exclusions, but to Donald's point, exactly. The operating budget, if you've been talking about an override for the last year, and it fails, then what are we gonna do? And we need to discuss this at some point.
Well, actually, I think when we get, right now, if we can, let's stay focused on the articles, and then when we get to strategic planning, I think I know the finance committee is here tonight, and they wanted to update us on some of their discussions, which is gonna come back to the point you and Donald are making. So it's okay, we could just because I think we'll have an opportunity to continue this conversation momentarily. Okay.
But the
And I
start of
guess
the
what I'm trying
conversation
to
was.
say, Madam Chair, is I don't think the Finance Committee has enough information to make their decisions, you know, recommendations, and, you know, that's what I'm getting to. I want to give them as much information as they can get to make their decisions.
I'm in total agreement with you. Okay, so for the fire substation, then the only update right now, just to recap, is the subcommittee will be meeting within the next few weeks. Joyce is working with the chief to figure out the next date for that. At that point, at that meeting, at a minimum, you'll be addressing the Hoynoski property in terms of its acceptability for possible change of location. And there are boring testings that we authorized at a previous meeting that are going to be conducted on August 7th, and it should take about 2 weeks or so for us to get the results from that.
You know, I guess I can use the fire substation as a way what I'm trying to express. Things have changed. We're looking for $810,000 added to the amount of monies that were proposed from town meeting. So that's changing it from 2.9 million to 3.4 million, which is a significant figure. Now, I was on the ground level with Mr. Pipczynski, traveling around all over Western Mass, but my attitude has changed. We were up against the SAFER grant, and we all thought we were gonna get the SAFER grant, and we were gonna have personnel in the center station manning it, but that didn't come to reality. And in the meantime, we thought about, we're gonna build the substation because we needed it. Now, I think that money could be much wisely spent by staffing our center station and maybe putting that on hold. The idea of buying the property is a very good idea for the future, you know, but I think we're putting the cart before the horse on trying to build that substation now, and it's gonna affect everything else in this town, you know? And it's more important to have staff personnel in center station, in my mind, you know, so.
So I think
But that's the kind of
yes, we
thought
need to-
I'm having with every article. I want that discussion and people in the audience to bring out why we need them. And I want to hear both sides of everyone.
Again, I'm in complete agreement. I think at this point, we're just saying that we're trying to get as much information as possible in, so to remove as many variables as possible, so that when we do have that discussion, it's as comprehensive as possible. So it'll definitely happen.
Yeah, you know, maybe we could schedule it at Hopkins again in a larger forum where department heads can come and everyone, you know, and have a much better discussion.
Okay, well, why don't we talk about that more next week too?
Sure, that'd be fine.
So that's the story with the fire substation. So senior center update?
So you have asked us again and again if we're gonna come back and ask for more money later. And we wrote a little thing here that basically says, no, we're not, because our professionals, the OPM, the architects, and the estimators have all come in and said, we're gonna build this building for 7.1, and we're
This is
asking.
the 12,000.
This is the
Yep.
12,000 square foot building, and,
Thank you.
we're not coming back for more money, if that's possible to do that.
You can share.
So one question I do have, just that's come up, is, and again, in the spirit of maybe making it a little bit more comprehensive as opposed to anecdotal. There's been a lot of questions asked about the size, because now that's really the focus, is 12,000 versus 9,500, whatever, square foot building, and the appropriateness for a town of our size. And some of those questions are coming up in the context of what other towns have. So for example, Northampton's 14,000 square feet and change. Greenfield, I've heard, I haven't seen it in print, like Northampton, is just over 8,000 square feet. So is there some analysis that you could do to bring that forward?
Sure, so first and foremost, the schematic design was done with Lifespan Design, who are architects that specialize in programmatic layouts for senior centers. And so they sat down with me over a span of 2 days and said, what are all the things you do? What are the things people, you know, that you anticipate people coming to that you can't already have the space for? What are your needs programming wise? How many people are participate in each one of these things? What do you want to cap it at, and all the rest of that? And so these professionals came and sat down with us, and we did that. And programmatically, after running all of those things, we came up with a schematic design that was 12,023 square feet. And it is capped, like this classroom only holds 18 people. You know, this exercise dance studio only holds 20 people. Things like that that are relative to our population, what we have been doing, and issues of control and safety included in there. Okay, so the programmatic design was designed by people who are specialists in senior centers, and allocating an official amount of square footage per activity per senior in that space. When you take a 12,023 square foot building, and then you take away the 30% for corridors, mechanics, and stairways, and all, or not stairways in this particular building, hallways. For this particular building, you're now dealing with, and I have all this in everything that was handed out to you.
6,600.
No, that's the 95.
I'm
You have,
6504.
No.
80 something.
no, it was
8416.
8416. So you're looking at 8416 as usable program space, okay? So right now, another question that was asked of us is, how big is the Hooker School right now, and how much of it are you using? And so to answer that question, the Hooker School is actually 18,804 square feet. The COA uses 6,504 net square feet of usable programming space between the basement and the first floor. And so that's not counting the extra 30% for quarter storage and mechanicals.
Stairways.
There won't be,
No,
yeah,
in the
stairways
old-
in the old building. So actually, we're going you know, just by having it laid out differently and more according to usage, you know, we're not going that much more than what we actually use now, but because it's designed for its use instead of being put into an old school, the space is reflective of that. So, you know, when you go down to a 9,500 square foot building, you yield approximately 6,600 square feet. Now, if we're already using 6,500 square feet, you can see that we're not going to be able to increase programmatically more so to meet the growing need in a space like that. In fact, we've highlighted the pink things that go away in that space of a 9,500 square foot building. You get rid of the fitness room, the gym equipment, the treadmills, the new step, the da-da-da-da-da. You're just left insofar as dealing with exercise with the classroom. This is the game room, potentially maybe the pool table, all of the canasta and the other 2 days a week card games, along with the patio and the guys hanging out, morning coffee, newspaper hits there. That's so your social places kind of go away doing that. Your arts and crafts studio, creativity is a huge part of aging healthy. That's gone. This classroom, because the conference room will be done, will now need to be everything. It'll need to be the conference room. It'll need to be the education room. It'll need to be the support group setting, the computer classroom, you name it. And that's going to be a tough one because you'll be double dutying with all of the conferences that happen between the Friends, the COA board, the, what's the other one? The Friends, the COA board,
The
there's
building
another one.
committee.
And the building, yeah, our senior center building committee. But
But
you know,
other groups
so
too.
basically, fitting into a 95 square foot building gives you 6,600 square feet, which is what you have now. There's no programmatic growth, and it doesn't address more seniors coming in.
So can I just try to
Please.
take the same information you're giving and maybe put it a
Please.
little bit differently?
Please.
So again, I think if somebody says, well, Northampton has a population of 30,000, and they have a 14,000 square foot senior center. We have a population of 5,500, we're looking for 12,000 beds, the numbers don't compute. So what I'm hearing you say is that be careful there, because you can't just extrapolate based on the population and say, well, one is 5 times bigger than the other, therefore. It's like building a house. So if a couple is going to move into a house and they have no children, and they only have a need for 1 bedroom, and they're perfectly happy being in a ranch, they're still gonna need a kitchen and a bathroom and a living room, and right? And that's going to account for X amount of space, and it's kind of fixed space.
It's fixed space, exactly.
But from there, then and again, it's a program-driven layout that you have. So of course somebody's gonna come in and say, you know, these are all of the activities you're trying to perform, and this is how we would lay it out. So I think I understand that you can't just simply multiply that. That wouldn't be appropriate, which is why you're driving back to the actual usable program space here and getting rid of the mechanical room and the common area and that kind of stuff, common corridors and things.
Right?
But on the other hand, if those same people say, well, Northampton has a much more significant population and Greenfield has a more significant population, and then look at their programming space, it may seem, and it may not be appropriate, but it may seem to people like this is still bigger than perhaps we need, knowing that those are 2 relatively new buildings. So we're not comparing it to something built in 1975, it's something that's contemporary.
I understand.
So I'm not asking tonight, but I think, I'm just trying to offering based on conversations I've had with people, thoughts in my own head at times, that would be really good information for you to bring forward to help people
Specifically
understand.
tell me what information you're looking for.
If somebody stands up on town meeting floor and says, you gotta be kidding me, we only have X number of seniors that are being serviced, and I know you want to service X amount more, but we only have 5,500 people in this town,
Mhm.
and you're telling me you need a 12,000 square foot building? That's ridiculous. Northampton's is 14, and Greenfield's building one for just over 8. You need to be prepared to answer the question.
Madam
Okay.
Chair, my answer to that would be, I've sat the other day almost 2 hours with Jane, and she really enlightened me. When you look at 12,000 versus 9,500, it's like night and day. First of all, you don't have any additional space for anything with 9,500 square feet. That's only going to take care of accommodating the seniors. And that's all Northampton does. Northampton has multitudes of buildings for other activities. You have a YMCA in Northampton, which takes care of most of the activities in Northampton. We don't have that. Having 2,500 more square feet in that building will also allow us, if the schedule permits, to use it as a community building in certain aspects, if their schedule permits. And that 1,200 square feet allows us to do that. Without it, we don't have the opportunity.
Yeah.
They don't have the square footage there to accommodate other activities in the town.
And Donald, I'm not advocating or.
Right,
Oh,
but you're
I'm just
bringing up
saying-
issues that need to be addressed, and I
Yes.
understand
So I'm just
that.
asking,
Yep.
it sounds like a lot of that probably has already been happened, but I think it would just be really helpful
Right.
when those comparisons are made for you to be able to speak to it.
And I appreciate that, and we'll work on getting those answers as well as the ones that we've already been asked.
Mhm.
To make one point, one of the things that goes away is as I said, the fitness center, which isn't in and of itself a huge space, but it's something that people have been jumping on the bandwagon to, and one of the things that really is a highlight in Northampton. In fact, they had to change the room it went into, and they bought all new equipment because they can't keep up with the demand. The newly retired seniors are very proactive about maintaining their health as opposed to reactive, where the elders are. In either scenario, we keep the office space, which allows us to try and do information and referral for the elders to be able to maintain and age in their homes. But getting people to join in socialization with their peers and create their own activities with a sense of ownership and join in community of their peers is all about the other spaces that go away. And that makes it really dry, and that makes it the kind of place that you hear when people go, oh, I'm not going there, there's nothing but old people there, which is not true if you come to our senior center on any morning and you see people exercising. It's a cultural thing, even as much and equal to what other towns use for space. I'm happy to try to answer those questions and all questions. In fact, I encourage people to ask more questions so that I can dig and find the answers quickly and efficiently.
Because you did a lot of tours, obviously, of the various senior centers, so I think you're probably very familiar with the layouts of other senior centers.
We are familiar with the layouts of other senior centers, but we're also very, very, very aware that there's a push not only in senior centers, but anything municipally or state-driven to regionalize. And so grant funding only goes to those things that are shared between different communities and all the rest of that. And for a few years now, since this mandate's been handed down, I've been saying that's all well and good, but it also turns everybody into a cookie cutter place where they offer only the same things that are approved of by the state, and it doesn't allow for cultural differences of what works in one town versus what doesn't work in another town. What may work in Amherst or Northampton won't necessarily fly in Hadley. Totally different things, and I want to make that really clear that this is reflective of the trends we've seen here, what we've been asked for, and what we expect the population to grow into.
In addition to the population growing, the existing population, there's a large number, and I'm sure you've heard from some of them, who can't wait to have a senior center they can physically get into.
Mhm. No, of
Being
course.
accessible is
Madam Chair, can I
quite
make a comment? I would hope, as a community, we should be learning from our mistakes. The safety complex, look at the amount of money we're putting into that. We didn't build it right 20 years ago, it was much too small. The same with the elementary, we forced cuts so we could get it under budget. Last town meeting, we spent $400,000 for air conditioning, which would have been in the original building. And I don't want to make the same mistake with this Council on Aging building. And the last sentence on the handout sheet says it all. By the municipal building, they advocate, do it right the first time.
And the difference.
And they've learned from the mistakes
It's
we
exactly
made,
the point I
and
was
they're
gonna-
correcting them.
It's exactly the point I was gonna make.
And the
We
difference.
built a fire station that we can't expand on, we can't put a full-time department in, and we just put $1 million in repairs into that building, and it's 25 years old.
To build the 12,000 square foot building, we need 1.8, which is what the professionals had told us the first time. To build the 9,500 square foot, which really seriously inhibits the social growth, and building of community within their peers, you still need $1 million.
So we're really talking $800,000
Okay.
between the two buildings.
Okay, and then so next steps for you guys, is there any new information coming out between now and?
What else would you like to know?
No, I'm just asking, is there anything else that you have like open on your?
We're
You
waiting
have
for the
everything now
town
at this
meeting.
point.
We have it, we're at schematic design with the 12,023 square foot building.
And the other one as well. I think they were doing
Right.
drawings for both buildings.
But
Okay.
both came in under what we
Both need
Have.
more money.
Okay.
So either do it right or
So
settle.
that's why we came back to the town to see which way we should go.
Yeah, okay. Okay, so you're good to go then, basically,
We're
so
ready.
whenever this meeting gets scheduled, I mean,
We're
I'm
ready.
making it work.
Well,
doing the
we
meantime.
want to make it very clear we're available to answer any questions that come up along the way,
Okay,
and we'll get right on that and get them back to you.
okay, and that's, you know, again, really just from my personal standpoint, that's the conversation that I've heard,
Thank
just
you.
about the size.
Now, your test borings were very positive, I
Yes.
understand. Now, moving the building in a westerly direction,
We haven't even gone there with the architect, but that could.
but that's eventually what's gonna happen. And is there any estimates on, just because of the positive borings, on dollar savings by moving it out of that area? And not having to upload the amount you would have in the past?
$83,000 savings.
Okay.
Which
But-
usually fits into the 40,000 needed for hydronic heating.
And the thing is that with a smaller building, ironically, when you compare the two budgets side by side, even though we save 83 because of that, when you build a smaller building, your cost per square footage actually goes up versus
Sure.
the bigger building. So,
Numerator and denominator, yeah.
The other piece that we found when we visited all the senior centers across the board was after you open a new center, within a year, it's what percentage increase?
yeah, they say between 100 and 150%
Of
increase.
usage.
Yeah.
So right now, we're in a building and we're pretty much using it. And now we're gonna add 150% more people to
Mhm.
using that. It won't work in a small building.
Okay. All right, anything
Can I
else for the
ask one
senior
more
center?
question? You know, again, I can't emphasize enough, by not having an advanced budget for the Council on Aging and the sub-fire station, too many mistakes were made. The library, on the other hand, they planned all along to get to the point where they are today. And can you give me a ballpark figure, how much you spent
You're gonna go into
Yeah.
the,
in preparation to get to this point? In your budget, you know, preparing?
Well,
50,000 maybe?
$50,000 in the state grant that we received to do the planning and design, as well as 25,000 in local funds that were allocated.
And if the Council on Aging had that money, no mistakes would have been made along the way. And the same with the sub-fire station. It would have been so much easier. And both committees have used volunteer help, trying to get the best expertise they can for $0, which is very difficult.
Okay. So, library folks, sorry, the group, You have an update?
So, when I was here at the Capital Planning Committee meeting on Monday, the big question for us was, well, so you have the grant, and how much are you going to be asking for on town meeting floor? And that is the big question, because this is our first time around with having this grant. And so we needed to check back with the folks on the Mass Board of Library Commissioners who were giving us this 3.9 million, and ask them how we are supposed to make this request on town meeting floor compared to, say, money we've already fundraised, et cetera. So unfortunately, they were on vacation until today, so we've gotten some additional information from them, some which we sent to our treasurer earlier today regarding the bond, and I don't know if she shared that with you, David. So the bottom sheet, which is the spreadsheet, that is our budget. So when I was here on Monday, there were some questions specifically about the budget, what was called eligible, what was called non-eligible. So I was trying to explain it. I think this explains it a lot better. When we applied for the grant, we could only apply for the amount in the eligible column. But we've had the entire project costed out. So for the building to actually open, we would need to have all of that stuff done. Just as any building would, you'd need to make sure you have light bulbs and furniture, etc.
Landscaping.
Exactly.
Furniture.
So that is the total cost of the project. That is to your far right. And so that's the difference between the eligible and the ineligible. So we, and then the other page, the single page, we asked some detailed questions for the treasurer about the disbursement of the grant. So you can see on that page that they disperse it 20% a year over 5 years. So I know that Linda had a lot of detailed questions. I know the finance committee had asked some questions about when to do the bond, how much should come off when. So that should give a better idea. So we just got that right before we came to the meeting. So I'll be sending that to Linda since she's not here tonight. So she has that information as well. And so that's, in some ways, a separate question, trying to figure out when to take the bond, et cetera. But so we are still trying to figure out exactly how much to ask for on town meeting floor. We do anticipate that it will be less than the 3.9 million that we've already gotten for the grant.
What's that? It's gonna be less
It
than?
will be less than the 3.9, so we have the grant for
Okay.
3.9, we'll be asking the town to pay for less than half for the library. But so to echo your sentiments, get everything right the first time, so we know what the deadlines are. Our architect and our OPM are still on vacation until next week, so we just wanna make sure that we've talked to Linda, we've talked to David, we've talked to those folks, to make sure that the number that we do submit for the warrant will be the right one.
So
Was
just
it-
to-
oh, excuse me.
just very simplistically, okay. So if the total eligible plus non-eligible costs are at 8.2 million.
Yep,
700,000 of which is contingency.
yes,
8.2,
yes.
and we're receiving a grant potentially for 3.9. If you take the 8.2 and subtract the 3.9, you got
That's-
something bigger than.
Yes,
that
that's
you
not
just
what,
said.
that's not what we anticipate asking for, so
Right,
that
so
would
can you
be,
explain where does the rest of the money come from? Because that's what everybody's gonna
That's
ask.
what my question was,
Yes.
where are you gonna fund the 654 out of the non?
so that's why I brought the whole budget. So one of the things that we don't have to pay for is the cost of the land. So we were allowed to count the cost of the land as part of the grant, that's the 280,000 that you see there. But obviously the town owns that, we don't have to purchase it, it's already been purchased by the town, or however we got it, whenever we got it. So that is money that we are not gonna have to actually shell out in order to complete the project. We also have an active fundraising campaign going on. We also had a lovely gift of an amazing circulation desk from Smith College. Circ desks can run $50,000, so that is one cost that we will not have to spend on our own.
And
So
the fundraising goal?
So our fundraising goal right now is 300,000, but that is sort of our minimum. That is what we're looking for, sort of, on the local basis. But we're also actively pursuing a lot of grants, including some of the grants through the Community Foundation. We've set up a fund through Community Foundation, and they have a lot of other sort of matching grant opportunities along the way.
And the campaign has just begun.
Yes.
Once we knew we had
The grant money.
the grant money, and we had a gift from Kate Nugent and some other funds that we the trustees would be using towards this campaign. And then we've already solicited donations, pledges, like my family has pledged, Allison's family pledged, all of the trustees and capital campaign committee members and friends have pledged a span of for 3 years. So it's whatever a family could afford. This is a once in a 100-year opportunity to give back to your community. So the campaign is beginning. We thought we would have by October, because that's when we thought we would originally be coming to the town asking for the matching or the balance. But so we'll be working, continuing through till we at least reach that 300 and hopefully more.
Okay, so do you think that there's a chance, and again, you know, looking at this detailed line item, and for exactly the reason that Allison just stated, that any objective person would look and it says 280,000 under, you know, property, so, and it's included in the total, so they're gonna, you know, they're not gonna get the nuance, the fact that that says owned already there. So can you do some sort of a reconciliation to bring that back to true, actual out-of-pocket dollars that the treasurer and town administrator are gonna be dealing with?
Yes, and that's what we're working with. Now, what the ask will be on the town meeting floor, again, will be sort of what we feel will be the maximum. So again, you pointed to the 690,000, that's contingency. That might be money that we never have to spend. If everything goes well, we're not gonna have to spend that 690,000. But we're not subtracting that, because we know that's just sort of buffer in there.
No, we need to be prudent about that.
Exactly. So yes, that's exactly what we're trying to do now, and we're trying to say, okay, which of these things, so I think it was you, Gerry, who brought up the shrubberies that was on the line item for the seniors last time. And you're right, there are things like that, you know, could you open your doors without some shrubberies? Sure, you could, you know, so there are some things like that. And we wanted to make sure we could actually count our pledges. So we don't have the money in hand now, but those are over 3 years, and since we don't anticipate that we will be opening our doors in 3 years, that we wanted to make sure we could count that. So that's exactly what we're doing right now, with all these folks who are experts who have gone through this multiple times. Our OPM, our architect, they have been through this many times. We have not.
And again, just kind of the same, just talking to the folks at the senior center, I think it's gonna be critically important, because I've already heard from 3 completely different people that, oh my God, the library's short. I heard 500,000, 600,000, and 700,000. 3 different folks, and you know, they're not making it up. I mean, they're hearing something that's causing them to say, oh my God, now the library's short as well as these other 2. And yet I had direct contact with Joanne, and she was like, what? So I think, again, it's just a matter of reconciling this information back to the information that we started with.
Yep, that's why we don't have a number for you, because we don't want to just come out with a number that is not the right number. We don't want to be coming back to you next year and saying, well, we didn't calculate this right, and we need another whatever we need. We don't want to be in that situation any more than you want us to be in that situation. But we know the deadline for the warrant article, so we will have it ready for you. It will be the right number.
Where's the demo number in here?
It's you know, when I got here, I was like, we didn't pull that. So we discussed it with him before. It's rolled up in that construction number.
Okay.
Yeah.
And the furnishings, how come it's listed twice for the furnishings numbers?
Because
The
some are
FF
eligible and some are not. For example, the MBLC.
I'm
will
looking
pay-
both under eligibles,
Oh.
under line item number 59, and line item number, I'm sorry, not eligible, okay, I'm sorry.
Some are like,
And some, honestly, I don't know what these are. So you're maybe looking at
No,
furnishing
from the
fees.
grant.
Not sure what it is, but it's in there.
FF&E
Right, there's
stands for
there's some
furnishing
pieces of
fees and
furniture
electric.
like shelving, book shelving, for instance, which is eligible. Other things like soft seating are not. So-
Understood, okay.
But those things are things that we can fundraise around. Those are things that we can, make decisions about how to be thrifty on, putting furniture into the building. There are many things that in the current building that we can reuse and then later replace, so we don't have to, spend that money right up front. But it is in the budget, and there are other ways that we can save money as well.
Right, their estimation is if you're building a library from the ground up and you don't have anything that you are bringing to the table. That's what we were required for our grant to do the calculations for. So we will be bringing a lot of things anyway.
And there should be plenty of opportunity to bring, I mean, if you're considering demo of that building, and it's gotta happen to build a new library, there's no reason you can't recycle that stuff. You know, they're cast concrete fluted columns on either side of that Hooker School door. And you can get LEED certified by using that stuff. You gotta take it down anyway.
Yeah.
And, I mean, is there some kind of grant available for that? Maybe, but that's how, I mean, if you're making this kind of history, building buildings, why not, you know, see if you can
Yeah,
do that.
repurpose.
If you pay for that demo, you have to handle that material. And there are, I mean, that's how the LEED Platinum certified happens, is when you do that stuff.
David?
So everybody's concerned about how we're gonna afford all of this. So Linda, the treasurer, and I have been working behind the scenes trying to make sure that we have the borrowing capacity to make sure that this is gonna have a stable impact upon the tax rate, and that the total impact is an affordable impact. Okay, so we're not in a position right now to tell you whether we're going to be successful in that. One critical piece of information that we need is a calendar. We sort of know the shape and the contour of each of your projects, but we don't know, and we have a general sense of the sequencing, but we don't have a very good sense of what goes first, which project is ready to go, how long is it going to take, and when does the next one start. And for us to be able to put together a funding strategy, we need to have people from the 3 projects meet with us, hopefully in the next 48 hours, to just sit down and say, okay, this is our schedule, and see if we can put together a master schedule for these 3 buildings so that we can do the rest of the financial planning that we need to do.
In order to get that, do you have a sense if the meeting is going to be in late August when the vote will be? Because we can't move forward, excuse me, until the ballot question has happened, and our schedule will be relative to that.
Right, so now that the select board has given their date, we know that the ballot question is going to happen no later than 90 days after August 29th, and no sooner than 35 days after August 29th.
You know, it's quite obvious the work that went into this from the trustees and the committees, and I applaud you on that, you know, but the most impressive thing that sticks in my mind is being chosen number 2 out of 33 applicants. So the state feels it's truly warranted. So.
Agreed.
So Linda and I have mostly unstructured time tomorrow and Friday. If you could reach out and we could set up a meeting, and that would be great.
Part of what we had heard was that there was only going to be 1 ballot vote for both the August meeting and the October meeting, which would happen after the October meeting. Is that correct? Because that plays a role.
Right, that's...
If there's an override, you should do it under 1. You should not do 2 overrides.
Yeah, I would have to sit down with the calendar and work it out.
But that is what we discussed.
Yeah,
Yeah.
So that is directly relative to our timeline.
right.
So we're now looking at minimum of 35 days after this.
So we
Second
can,
time.
so the next 48 hours, we can sit down, we can hash out all these details, we can sit down with calendars, we can plot it out, because that'll tell us how we're going to shape the debt so that it has no spikes in the tax rate if we can avoid them, and that the increase is going to be an affordable increase.
That's where they're looking.
And our timeline is in some ways embedded in the milestones required of us from MBLC,
Yeah.
which is embedded in that.
This is very helpful,
We just got that, that's
Right.
hot off the presses, Linda doesn't have it yet either.
This is very helpful.
Yeah, so we'll forward that along, but obviously,
Okay.
so our start date is contingent upon sort of their vacate date, so,
Right.
but, I mean, we can clearly count off where, you know, the requirements we have to meet by year 1, 2, 3, whenever our clock starts ticking.
Right, thank you.
Okay. All right, so thank y'all.
So we should be here the second, which is next Wednesday.
Yeah, just keep coming.
To just-
Yeah, just keep
It's a
coming.
tri-board.
It's a tri-board meeting, so it
Right.
starts at 6
Well, it
o'clock.
sounds like a lot of discussion's gonna happen.
Yeah.
I mean,
So you
keep
probably
meeting, but
want
it's
to,
good
again,
to-
if people say, want to.
If you have something to add to it, you know, what you
Yeah.
added tonight.
Yeah.
If you don't have anything, new information, then
By meeting with David and,
don't
Wanda.
kill yourself coming
We'll
out
have
to all
all
these meetings if you don't
Yeah.
have to.
If we forgot to say it, congratulations.
Thank you. We're very excited. The town should be excited too.
Yeah. Okay, all right, thank you. So we have strategic planning and we also have special town meeting here. So I guess we can start with the,
Special meeting. What else do you have to do on that? You already got the.
oh yeah, that's right, now we're
You
gonna
already
do
done
that.
that.
I was thinking it was special town meeting for
Oh, no, it's
That's
not.
October.
next week.
No.
Yeah, that's next week. I had my agendas confused. Okay. So strategic planning. So this is a standing item now, and we had talked about the priorities that were jointly established between the finance, at the tri-board meeting. And we talked about volunteer enhancement, we talked about human resources, we talked about information technology, we talked about charter, although that one wasn't unanimous, public safety and revenue enhancement. And I know that there's been some movement on at least some of these fronts, so I'm wondering if probably the most important is I know the Finance Committee has been meeting frequently and talking about what we're faced with going into the fall, and many of these priorities being the driving force behind that. So do you want to give an update first, and then we can?
Yeah, so the Finance Committee is preparing language ahead of next tri-board's meeting about our recommendations. In the meantime, we can just kind of anecdotally describe what happened at our last meeting. Basically, the two areas that we identified as potentials for cost cutting were Parks and Rec, and then health insurance for elected officials. We identified those as strategies that would be good regardless of the need for fire, IT, HR. Were an override not to go through, the money savings through that could potentially offset fully funding the fire department. Not HR, not IT. You can speak more to the
Yes.
details on Parks and Rec.
Yes, so the Park and Rec, we look at it as we can divide the parks part of it and then the programming part of it. So the parks part of it, we thought that could be umbrellaed under the DPW, essentially because they're gonna be maintaining the parks, which one other thing is I noticed they don't have a line item for maintenance for there. We looked at Park and Recreation right now because of the fact of the changes, the changes that are happening within the department and the need. And we also looked at the programs and for the youth, and then we also looked at the library. The library has a youth programmer already working for them, and we looked at it as that possibly that person could take on the responsibilities of the program outside of sports. Sports, as we know, is huge in this town, but it's also all parent-run organizations. Looking at Park and Rec as well, is that all their money that they raise covers their expenses. So there's no money going into the general fund. Basically, the town, it's an expense to the town to have that department. And looking at, we feel kind of looking at what's needed of them. They don't have a building anymore to host programs in. There's never any talk of Park and Rec and what are we gonna do with it. There's always talk of the senior center and the library and so forth.
We spent half last meeting talking about Park and Rec. Melissa made a presentation to us and we supported what she was trying to do in the future.
Okay, so
I thought you guys were here for that meeting.
Excuse me, so we were here for that meeting, but also in the tri-board meeting, you also said to us that you're willing to listen to what we have come up with.
True.
We believe that fire and safety is important in this town. Do you not agree with that? And so we're
And I agree
coming,
that the children are important in this town too.
The
and
children
that
are
Park and Rec
important.
is important as well.
I'm not saying those aren't important, but we're
Yes, you
looking
are.
at.
No.
No,
Jerry,
I'm not.
Let her finish, Jerry.
I am not.
Then we can ask
There's
questions.
alternatives for where their youth programs could happen, Jerry. How many coordinators do you need in this town? Okay, you have one for the library and you have one Park and Rec. If we had the funding to be able to fund all these things, great, keep Park and Rec. Let me just tell you about Park and Rec as well. Planning board had a big meeting for Saturka Fields. I didn't see one commissioner there. Granted, one was on vacation. Not one was there. Nor did they call ahead, write a letter to say, I'm sorry, we're not able to make it.
But the finance committee,
The
I
finance
just want to bring
committee-
you back to your financial analysis of Park
Yes,
and Rec.
so with the elected officials and the cut of the insurance over a certain amount of time, and redirecting how Park and Rec is right now, you could potentially save and be able to support the fire department full-time day staff. That's what we come up with. I don't hear the
You
select
don't think our
board.
fire and police protection are good enough in our town right now? Is that what you're saying? Is that what you're saying, or what?
I am saying that your department does not have full-time staff to cover all the businesses that are in this town, and the more that they're going up, all the new houses that are going up this town, Hadley's growing. We need more than just a part-time
Fire department.
fire department. And it's not the farmers anymore that are volunteers. These volunteer fire department people, which I commend them and I thank them, but they all have full-time jobs, just like you do, and we do. You asked us to do something, and we came up with some solutions, whether you agree with it or not. I'm not here to get attacked.
No, so Terry, so I just go again, so we're going into dragnet mode, just the facts, okay?
The facts are, if you look at those two things, bring it to the town, let them vote on it.
No, but before we get to the
Okay.
next steps, I don't think you ever actually summarized. So you guys went through an analysis. How much do you actually believe we would free up from Park and Rec? And then you also brought up the healthcare for part-time elected
Well,
officials.
combined, based on the figures that we heard, so the insurance would be roughly $110,000, but that's not factual at this point. We need to find that out for sure.
Yeah.
And then if you look at the Park and Rec budget, is roughly $60-something thousand.
And did the part-time elected officials, are you wrapping in the increase in the OPEB cost as well?
No, we haven't done that, so we
So
could
that
do
would
that.
actually be an add-on, right?
Correctly,
Right,
correct.
David?
I don't think they'd be eligible for post-employment benefits.
But aren't they included in the
Retirement.
They're already vested.
Yeah, no, they're already vested, so they wouldn't have any, well, they have liability as long as they're continuing, right? So aren't they still part of
Only if
the?
they actually retired as opposed to ended their term, so.
What's the difference?
Okay, so what you're saying, so the liability itself, the
Right.
OPEB liability would not include any accrual, if you will, because once they stop being a part-time elected official, there's no further liability.
Right,
So they're just part of the ongoing cost, which is the 110?
unless you hired them,
Well, right, but I mean,
Yeah.
but right now, so that 110 is just truly the cost.
right.
And so as each one of them theoretically no longer was an elected official, that's the only cost that comes
Right,
off. Okay,
right.
all right. I was just hoping.
So with those things and looking at those things, I think that we could come pretty close to being able to fund the full-time day fire department, which is what Chief wants and he feels that we need.
So Mike talked about.
So that's what my suggestion is. It's not that I don't feel that our fire department can't do what they need to do today. I'm also looking down the road for the future. We talk about override, we don't know if that's gonna happen. We don't wanna ask the taxpayers to increase their raises for override, even though we logically think that it should happen. But, so for today, we're looking at, we can't count on that, and how are we gonna fund this? And I thought that the fire department was priority, for the select board and the safety of this community, and that's the way I look at it. And really, if you look at the budget, there's really not much room anywhere to cut things.
So
mean-
originally, Chief Spanknebel asked for, was it 216,000?
Yeah.
And then the finance committee, before we approved the budget, what was the amount that was moved into the hire that he's making now?
About $50,000.
For 218,
Which was
right?
taken out of the
OPEB.
OPEB.
Which we took out of OPEB. So we're really still talking about 216.
Yeah.
So, and you've identified potentially
170.
170
Right.
of the
But the
216.
216, you're referring to 219 and 3 additional employees in 219, not 218 budget.
Well,
218's got
218.
one.
Yeah.
Only
218
one,
has
right.
one, which we borrowed.
So
from
you're
OPEB,
thinking
we
of
have to
3 more
hopefully
in
pay back.
219 and looking for a way to pay them in the ominous budget.
For the total of 4, the 216.
Okay, right.
That's right.
Excuse me, that's 2 more or 1 or 3 more for 19?
It'll, 3 more.
3 total or 3 more?
Provided 1 more for this year.
Yes.
So
Right, and
3
then
more.
3
so
more,
for
so he has
total-
a 4.
Total of
On
increase.
top of the 2 that we have prior to this,
Right.
including the chief,
It'll actually be a total of 6 then.
5.
No, he was looking for 4 additional
Yeah. Yeah, so it'll
That's
be
what
a
he looked
total
for
of
in the
6.
safer grant, 4.
besides.
Correct.
Yeah, and then he came
Initially.
back.
That's right.
Right. So
And
right
this-
now, we have two employees. He's in the process of hiring a third,
Mhm.
which was funded by effectively,
OPEB, yeah.
an reallocation
Correct.
from OPEB. And then would be looking for,
3 more.
3 more, ultimately staggered over a period of time.
But weren't we told in the last discussion with the chief, he needs 3 so the shifts can work adequately?
It's
I know, but we're talking
4
4,
on, 4
but I
off.
thought he needed 3 new employees
So-
so the shift would work.
Right. He was asking
Without
for a
3, it
total-
won't work.
He was asking for a total of 4 and said at bare minimum he needed 3 to make it work. Unfortunately for this year, we were only able to
They
do
give him
1.
one.
So he'll not turn it down.
So then why aren't we looking at 2 more in 19, not 3?
I thought he needed it for 4 to make the shifts work, 4
Yeah.
on, 4 off.
That's what I did too.
So that's.
But again, I agree, and I also agree with what you just said. He was
Right.
like,
Bare minimum.
bare minimum.
3.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right,
4 for scale, over time,
right.
looking forward.
Correct, and the hopes are too, is that, he has, more employees and they can generate more funds too through inspections and whatever, I mean, they're generating a lot of funds for their department with just 2 people. I mean, that's a lot to ask. So, that's what we come up with, of
And
course,
let me ask you
it's a
this.
vote.
And again, I know the Park and Rec situation, we just happen to have had a resignation. And I've at least said it, but I think it's been supported by the select board in the past that Hadley has not gone through layoffs, as most other area communities in some shape, manner, or form have over the past, couple of decades, really. And I think we'd like to keep it that way.
Correct.
So, we effectively have looked at people as fixed costs, in that regard. So just with that in mind and asking how you guys went through the process, assuming that you weren't looking to cut existing staff,
Correct.
but there might be further opportunity if there's natural attrition. Were there other line items that you looked at, or, is everything else pretty much an uncontrollable cost at this point? Or are you continuing to look?
We're continuing to constantly look.
Yeah.
But the fire station, as we said as a board to begin with, was priority to us.
Right. And when we were looking at Parks and Rec, there was a lot of discussion. We understand it would be cutting services to a large extent, as much as you can delegate it out to
Right.
DPW and, in a consulting kind of basis. But we identified Parks and Rec as the biggest potential savings
Mhm.
for the least amount of essentially cutting services as compared to any other department in the town. So that's why we were offering that up as a possibility to put towards fire as well as the health insurance.
In my mind, there's no question what this fire department does for us on a volunteer basis. Tonight, they had a blessing of the new fire truck, but more important to me, and it really impressed me, they just completed the volunteers building a tanker truck. They got it from surplus, And this truck is valued at $180,000, and it cost the town to build that truck $16,000 with the volunteer man hours and everything in there. It shows you what these volunteers do for the town of Hadley. And
we're still gonna need them, as Chief said, you're still gonna need them. This is,
The day coverage.
day coverage, and, you have accidents on Route 9, and, can we keep on going with what we have? The town is growing, things need to change. So, we were asked to complete a task, and we did it. And it's not anything personal to anybody, it's what we need, what is best for this town. And safety's first to me, and for the youth, we have alternatives. It's not getting rid of their programs, we have other alternatives. Maybe we hire just a part-time person, a consultant. It's not a full-time town employee, therefore you don't have the benefits of that. Or we share, which I've always said, sharing services. You're gonna have this nice new library, they already have a youth coordinator. And the programs Park and Rec is focused on are things that can be held within a room. Well, so where are they gonna get the space? The schools aren't always so able and accommodating because of other things that are happening. So, we have a new senior center. It's not a community center, it's a senior center.
So can we, I'm just thinking, there's some other priorities as well. So we're talking about public safety, and I think
Yes.
everybody knows the story on the fire department right now. But also certainly looking at this list, the human resources and IT jumps to it. So, so part of the story is you're looking for opportunities to save within what we're already spending money on. But then we still haven't addressed some of the add-ons, and I know that part of the issue that you're having is you have no idea what we're even talking about for cost. So maybe, David, we could just give a little bit of an update about any further movement on the human resource and IT front.
Right.
And then we'll come back and maybe kind of summarize and say, what are we gonna do next?
All right, so just very briefly is on the IT front, Gabriel very helpfully approached us at the end of the capital planning committee meeting to say that he would like to demonstrate a program that you're using over in Amherst for budgeting. Do you want to tell us a little bit more about that? We have a meeting set up with you at noontime on Friday.
Yeah, so after being to so many of these meetings and having so many figures thrown in front of us, basically it's a budgeting data analysis and reporting tool. So you have information sitting in a database, we have a ton of Amherst use Munis, you guys use Vadar, and everything's kept on Excel spreadsheets, of course. And we all know the old PowerPoint and Excel try to make a bar graph out of it. This is that times 10.
So this is
Licensing.
actual third-party commercial software?
Yes, third-party
Okay.
software, data analysis and visualization and reporting. To make it extremely easy for David, Linda, and the finance committee to take all the spreadsheets we get, all the information we get, and easily visualize it. So when the senior tech talking about, the costs of X, Y, and Z, we can set a projector, we could easily set it up and kind of display it. And it's fairly inexpensive at $30 a license per user, or $70 for the professional edition. So on the IT front, because
That's it, it's just a per user license,
Yes,
and
per
that
user.
license is not based on population, total revenue?
No, so they have, basically depends on the data you're pulling from. The professional version at $70 per user per month includes databases. They have cloud solutions if you want to upload all your data to the cloud and have them host it. They have enterprise solutions if you have 100 plus employees that are all going to be using this, but that's completely out of our ballpark. And the basic version that you could start with just for using Excel spreadsheets, most of our stuff is on. So it's fairly inexpensive. I'm looking into it personally, and also for the town of Amherst, we're looking to implement it. And the goal of it is to streamline a lot of our discussions so we can easily run reports to have data right in front of us and easily visualize it so we're all on the same page, rather than talking about the same millions of dollars over and over again. So that, besides the IT plan, I've been reviewing that, kind of move on. So our 5-year strategic implementation plan that we received from the DLS, I've been reviewing that. And don't quote me on it, but the ballpark figures they came up with at the end for the
Wait a
capital
minute,
costs.
DLS or Northeast IT?
Northeast IT, sorry, thank you. At the end of it, the capital cost that they were approximating was somewhere in the range of 150 to 300,000, and this is spread out over 5 years, and depending on how you want to implement what. And the staffing costs would be more dependent on us, obviously, what we pay, and be looking at bare minimum 1 to 2 employees. And it's much more complicated to kind of price out than perhaps fire was, so we can't just say we'll need 250 and that's that. We would need more direction on how much IT we want to implement and where, and how quickly. So they gave us a 5-year plan. We're already falling kind of a year behind, so a number of them need to be refreshed. But if we want to put together a modest package, mostly covering operational costs and operational budget, and a chunk of maybe 2 years out for the capital costs, and kind of a strategic plan for if we hired one person with 2 years worth of capital cost kind of, foreseen, and where we want them really working on implementing, IT solutions. So obviously starting with town hall and then possibly working more at the library versus DPW, prioritization. We could potentially have something ready for discussions of an override in the special fall town meeting. So I was as far as I got with kind of ballpark numbers, again, really kind of napkin math.
Gabe, can you,
So then-
I listened to you the other night, your finance committee, when you were explaining this on TV, and please correct me if I'm wrong,
Yeah.
because, I'm not fluent in technology, but the town uses Vadar, the school uses Vadar, but apparently we're short on software to communicate with each other in the system, the treasurer's office or whatever. We have the capabilities to communicate with everyone, the school
Right.
presently?
Yes, so, if you don't mind, this was a problem that the financial management team worked cooperatively with the school back in just January, and I think we've gotten that all worked out, and so everybody's communicating, the chart of accounts is being standardized, so that issue of non-communication or broken communication has been resolved.
Well, and
Yeah, good.
specific to what Donald's talking about, I think what you're talking about is with the chart of accounts not being aligned, okay, there was no seamless integration, so there was consistently a handoff of a file that had to occur.
Right.
Now that we have, or are about to have, we are on the cusp of having those charts of accounts aligned, and what that means is then they will be able to effectively just transfer electronically information, which should significantly diminish the amount of time spent reconciling the books between each other, and it will also enhance our ability to do the standardized reporting.
That's what I was looking
That's-
for, I guess, yeah.
Yeah.
You answered my question.
That's kind of on the same lines. My question is, this program that you're looking at is much easier than the Vadar system,
So
and
it's-
can be, because it's third party, used by more people.
So yes, and it's not
Okay.
a replacement for Vadar in any way.
Okay.
So Vadar is basically the database software that we use to keep track of everything, accounting-wise and otherwise, in the town. What this does is tap into Vadar, pull out all that information from the database in what looks like, an Excel spreadsheet,
Standardize it.
standardize it, and then robustly allows you to chart and run reports. So if you want, so we're looking at our funding mechanisms, and when we're looking 3 years out and we're trying to balance all these projects against each other, we assume perhaps a 3% borrowing rate. So Dave and Linda will run the reports, they'll do all the math, put everything together in Excel, and then they'll present you a report. This kind of software, they could do that in, and then it has the kind of capabilities to say, well, what if it was a 5% borrowing rate? They up it to 5, it robustly changes all the tables, all the graphs,
Okay.
to say this is what 5 looks like.
That's the information we're looking for every day here.
Exactly, that's what I was trying
Management reporting.
to solve, is that all these different scenarios that we have, trying to visualize it to keep us all on the same page. It pulls all the information we already have from the database software we're already using, Vadar,
Yep.
and does what would take you kind of more coding experience and years with Excel, and just does it for you. So
I
that's
guess what it boils down to is X is, how much is it gonna cost, and how much is it gonna save us in the end? Which is a very
Yeah,
difficult question, I know.
Well, again, so
But-
30 for the basic, 70 per month per user, depending on how many people you want using this. And then time saved would really be the cost saver for both David, Linda, and then all of our volunteers, depending on how you value that. Really, so I mean, I'm coming up with a demonstration to present to Molly and David on Friday, and then obviously we can speak with the marketing people over at Tableau to sell us on it, of course. But yeah, time savings would be the main thing, so that the finance committee can have numbers in front of them that are regularly updated more frequently. Can visualize it a lot easier, so when we're talking 2.8 for this, 800,000 for this, we can see it, and that hopefully enables David and Linda to have a quicker turnaround time when we ask for all these figures charted out, that they can run the reports and get it back, in a weekly rather than 3 or 4 weeks time.
So in essence, this is the first phase of beginning to upgrade IT.
That's one component of it.
One-
right?
yeah.
component
But this
of it.
has to be done initially before you go further.
No, actually, and so
This is an opportunity.
it's an opportunity, yeah. And so in addition to that, Northeast IT is coming in for a meeting, because remember when we asked for the quote on the server, and they basically said, yeah, we can do that for you, time out, folks. When I'd gone to that Pioneer Valley Planning Commission meeting, and one of Gabe's colleagues she was lovely, by the way, we sat next to each other. They were also talking about initiatives in other area towns, and some of them involving sharing arrangements. So Northampton is very interested. They have a laserfish program, which again may or may not be appropriate for us, but one of the biggest issues we have right out of the gate is we have no easy way to share information between employees. I mean, we just don't have networked file sharing, which is
departments?
yeah, I mean,
Not
departments.
employees themselves going into.
Right, yeah, because everything's standalone, so we're going to at least have a conversation with Northampton. They're providing that service for Williamsburg. That may or may not be cost effective for us, but the clear message at the meeting is at this point, that may be software that it makes sense to have a resident in-house that would require you to have a server. But pretty much anything else really should be internet-based. And anybody investing in additional equipment, and the name of the game should be trying to minimize the hardware, not buy more of it, just because we're behind the 8 ball. So we may actually be able to kind of leapfrog over some of these significant equipment purchases. But the planning has to be done town-wide first, because again, to prioritize implementation, you want to know what's cloud-based, what's local, and then that will help inform the hardware and networking and all of that stuff that goes into it. So that's the conversation.
So are you saying like a study has to be done prior to anything in actuality being done?
I wouldn't say anything. I'm not a big fan of you can't do anything until you get a study. I mean, opportunity like this, that's almost like, well, why not?
Yeah, it's
why
worth
wouldn't you?
trying it, and we can
Yeah.
get out of it at any time if we don't
But
like
I
it.
think we need to have a picture overall of, and at the same session, Tim Nyhart I talked to afterwards, Northampton has an AE permitting solution that is in beta testing right now. They haven't gotten all of the bugs out of it yet, but they think it's gonna work pretty well, and if in fact that comes to fruition, why wouldn't Hadley share with their e-permitting software?
Yeah.
And how can this be tied into the grant we received for IT?
That grant, unfortunately, they said, oh, we love SCADA, and they didn't give us money for anything else. So that's why when we're talking about what are we gonna be going back to the taxpayers for, we kinda need to know more of the picture, and then that helps inform, do we need one person, 2 people on staff going forward?
Exactly, and we've been talking about it for months and months and months now, Donald. And in the past couple of months, just what TV5 has done with the electronics that they upgraded, and every day, every week, he seems to be getting a little bit better and better at it. And the information is getting out there pretty quick. And I think tonight's the first night of YouTube Live, you said?
First night.
Okay.
Yeah, a little glitch with the sound at the beginning, but otherwise working smooth.
So, I mean, this is just gonna be ongoing for, you're not done yet, of course, but.
No, we still have stuff we haven't even turned on yet.
But
Well, I
it's
guess
stuff we
once
need to
again, you
address
know,
and
if we
move
begin
forward
this
with.
discussion with the schools, there's a financial savings for them also.
Yes.
You know, it could be a good chunk of money.
It's for the whole town.
Yeah,
It's not
but,
just-
I know, but right now they have an IT person, we don't. So utilizing the two departments together and creating a second IT person,
I
you know,
mean, it
would be
really
good
should
for
be
everyone.
A comprehensive IT plan, but I mean, we can knock some of these things off, but I mean, ultimately, we need to figure out what every department truly should have to make the operations more efficient, and then as many people have said before, it's not just the out-of-pocket line item cost, it's the opportunity cost of what these people are not spending time on. That's really ultimately what's costing the town so much money, so.
We all need to be on the same page.
Yep.
Bottom line.
Mhm.
Yep.
And if I may, so it's a bit also chicken and egg, because if we can get an IT professional full-time working for us, they'll be much more easily able to go and standardize things across departments, do a needs assessment, work with other municipalities to do all this work that we, and besides myself, are not very technologically, apt in doing.
What came first, the egg or the chicken?
So what I'm trying to put together before before the tri-board meeting is kind of, in business you have a minimum viable product, a kind of a minimum what we would need in some basic capital and a single staff person cost to get them in, and then have them do all of the work that you're discussing right now. There's tons of opportunities, we can implement it slowly over time and grow, work department by department.
Would
but
you
we
also
need-
agree that could be a consultant before we actually bring them on with benefits?
Oh, sure.
Okay, excellent.
Depending, yeah, that's the priority setting and
Right.
depending on how we want to do that, it's more select board's wheelhouse.
Good. David?
So, Bay State Accounting Group ran a beta program for the visible budget with the town of Coleraine. It was an experiment I've been waiting for them to do. So we've talked about the project of having the town's finances visible to the taxpayers and to anybody with an internet connection. We've worked with a couple of vendors without a whole lot of success. This seems to be a right-sized program for the town of Hadley. So I'm going to be looking at a demonstration of how well that worked in the town of Coleraine and bring that back for the board for consideration if it appears that it's appropriate for us.
So I think what I'm hearing is that we've got identified needs that can, we still have more to spend than we do to save. So I don't think anybody yet has come up with a magic bullet of an area of savings that's going to completely offset the dire need for enhanced fire safety personnel, and very closely behind that, human resources and information technology support, and we're still trying to work out the actual numbers we're talking about. What I heard the Finance Committee say tonight is they think that it's their recommendation that we go to town meeting. Whether or not we're even going to be making an ask, the right thing to do is to try to find opportunities for savings, but certainly in the context of saying that the fire personnel alone are a priority, and even then we still may be looking for more money to take care of these other things. And strategically, we could ignore the opportunities that you presented and just go to town looking for additional money only. Personally, I don't think that that's prudent. Knowing what I know about Hadley, I think they'd like to see that we were trying very hard to find opportunities for savings. But how does the rest of the select board feel about it?
Where's the ambulance committee on the bid process in order to save monies on our ambulance service that was gonna offset the expense of the fire department personnel?
No. Where did you get that idea? We never said that
Where is the ambulance committee with what they're doing on anything?
The RFP has not yet gone out, correct? Right.
It's not gone out yet.
When's it going out?
I haven't seen the final RFP.
Mike is going on vacation and he hasn't gotten the final.
I did talk to the town of Amherst and put them on notice that we were exploring an
Yeah,
RFP.
we did vote on that anyway, so they got their letter?
I've written the letter that authorizes the RFP. I've seen a rough draft of the RFP, but I don't know where we are on this.
Now, to Jerry's point, it's possible that when the RFPs come back and that we go through the interviewing process and somebody comes to the table and says, you know, what have you been paying Amherst, 100 and whatever, oh, forget it, you don't need to pay us anything, we'll just take all of the billable revenue and do it. But we are nowhere near at a point, and wouldn't be even for several years until we fully pulled that in-house, that any sort of billing revenue would be in a position to offset fire personnel cost.
Any analysis been done on a split tax rate yet?
We do that every October.
Have we put numbers to anything?
Yeah, we did. We talked about, to Jerry's point on the split tax rate, we talked about getting independent people in to have that conversation again. Because every year we go through the analysis and we quickly determine that it's not a good idea and we move on.
Yeah.
We never had any professional
Right.
analysis done as to whether or not, if the tax rate was to be commercially increased by, say, $1. And I'm not talking about doubling or doing any of those $30 for the commercial tax rate like the city of Holyoke does. But if we were to at least take a look at that and understand where the revenues would be, maybe on a matrix form to figure out where we would be if we ended up splitting the tax rate.
Okay.
Normally, we just rely on the assessor's recommendation, and I agree with you, Jerry. I would like to have a different aspect of, presenting something and how it would look maybe on paper to us if we did change.
Right, and that was where we were trying to get somebody from the DOR in, and that was gonna be one of the talking points, but that you never had any success with that, did you?
No.
Yeah.
No, that apparently there's some sort of policy the Department of Revenue is operating under where they won't come to a public meeting. I don't understand it.
Right, but then we did talk about maybe bringing in Sandy Pooler,
Yeah.
because we were gonna be talking about overrides, but he would certainly be knowledgeable about these other analyses that have gone on as well.
I can return to that.
Doesn't have to be done at a meeting. It can be done in your office downstairs.
An informal
I
meeting
think
where there
everybody's
isn't
gonna
a quorum. You could have a couple representatives there. That type of meeting can occur, couldn't it?
I can, so
Yeah.
long as you bring it back to a public meeting and disclose.
Later.
Because I
Yeah.
know the Finance Committee is extremely interested in participating in that as
Mhm.
well.
Yeah,
Yeah. Okay. All right, so can we try to accelerate that?
yep.
Okay,
So,
so,
till next week?
well,
Yeah, we can bring back the tri-board,
but, and again, I was just asking, how do people feel about I think in fairness to the Finance Committee, if we don't even want to have the discussion, it doesn't mean that they can't have it on town meeting floor, but they probably want to know if we're even open-minded to it. I'm saying I'm open-minded to it.
I'm open-minded too. I think we made a statement over a year ago that, and I know I did, that the infrastructure and the fire and police are on my priority list of what we need to do.
Pull the minutes from the meeting from 10 years ago when the discussion was being had about the employee or volunteer,
Fire.
no,
No.
insurance and commitments that were made to people that were involved with it at that time.
Mm-hmm.
The other thought is, I'm not sure how you feel about looking into, the percentages of what the town pays for insurance versus the employees. I mean, those are things, I've heard that we don't want to change, we want to stay with what we're doing. Or looking at other opportunities, maybe GIC to state insurance. I know there was pros and cons to that. Would it be less expensive for the town? How would it benefit or not benefit the employees? I mean, so there's room there to look at those items as well.
Well, we're still waiting, that was when Joe Shea was in from the Group Insurance Trust.
Right.
Aren't we waiting for them won't they be coming with some recommendation at some point?
Yes, they had a meeting just this morning, so they'll be coming back with information about that.
Yeah. So we haven't touched that yet, but that was based on Joe saying that they would be talking about that soon. Because first we get their take on it
Yeah.
before we do anything. And I do know that Hadley right now, relative to some other area communities, our employees are already paying a slightly higher burden on that than.
They are, I
Yeah,
agree.
yeah. So we have to take that into account as well.
That was brought up because, we also, the article about Amherst and what they pay and their employees, and then, of course, what Northampton does as well. I just, if there's room there to look at those things and maybe cut cost savings not only for the town, but for the employee, I don't know. I don't see those numbers, and I know that it's been a conversation before. And I haven't been privy to that conversation, but,
No, it's
so
definitely
there's
an area
options
that we
there
need
as
to-
well.
We need to dig into more and certainly invite the finance committee to participate in that.
Yeah, so like, 3 years ago, I heard that we were gonna try to do something with that, and so I kinda like to see that
Okay. Yeah, no, we're just
happen.
literally waiting for
Yeah.
them to come out.
We should be very, very careful about the GIC though.
Yeah.
The state employee health system. I regard it as an unstable financial platform, and I've seen them raise rates in the middle of the fiscal year at least twice, and talking about substantial increases. So we should be careful about them, because maybe on Tuesday it may look like a great deal, by Thursday it's not such a great deal.
Again, from a personal aspect, I'm on that, and I haven't seen increases in the middle of a year.
Fiscal
Yeah.
Fiscal year,
Let's
so
talk.
Yeah, we'll get the history. Yeah.
it's all, personal opinion, so
Mhm.
it's whatever's best for the town. I'm not saying go with them, but there's an option to look at it.
Yeah.
So John and Donald and Gerry?
What?
Yeah,
no.
what? I missed it.
No,
Missed something, whatever you're talking about.
We're just coming back to, again, is everybody on the select board agreeing that we're open-minded to looking at possibly, at these areas that they've identified? or
Yep.
no?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think it's our responsibility.
I mean,
You know?
everything has to be looked at no matter what.
Okay. Okay, so then, anything else on this, or can we move on at this point?
I think the HR, did we talk about HR? I mean, in finding a kind of somewhat a number that we're gonna have as far as having an
Yeah,
HR
so
person?
the last conversation you and I had was, you talked about reaching back out to the Employers Association, because we joined the Employers Association, and actually setting up a meeting with them to talk about, okay, here's what our situation is. Again, from a prioritization standpoint, what are the logical steps we should be taking before we go ahead and just hire somebody and then have them flailing with no direction? So,
Right.
so that needs to happen too.
That needs to happen too.
Just a point of interest, we meet tomorrow night, the COG,
Yeah.
and one of the big issues is HR. I'm gonna emphasize that. Now that Belchertown's remaining in the COG, South Hadley is, we're the only questionable one. And they wanna save face now. They wanna start doing things for communities now. They realize their image is tainted, and they wanna do a complete about face.
Okay.
So,
Yep.
I think I'll try to bring back as much as I can for our next meeting.
Okay, good. That'd be good.
There's a lot of communities, I don't know, if on the next form that we're gonna talk about, or the community structure comparison that's on page 18 of the Hampshire County Peer Analysis that was done. The only communities that have HR and finance people are the significantly larger communities. So the COG could be a vital, every community has to have these same exact problems going along. And I'm talking Amherst has got it taken care of, East Hampton has it taken care of, Northampton has it taken care of, Hatfield has it half taken care of, and Ware has it half taken care of. Every other community, Worthington, Williams, Big West Hampton, Plainfield, Pelham, Middlefield, Huntington, Hatfield, Granby, Goshen, and Belchertown have no. And half of those are COG members.
And all the ones you mentioned, the big ones, are not COG members anymore.
That's right.
There's no need for them to
Yeah,
be,
to
because
be.
they have the resources to be able to provide that. But we have 300 employees in the town of Hadley, and it's hard for that not to be addressed as an issue.
Yeah. David?
So today I received from the HCOG a survey expressing interest in regional HR, and I filled it out and said, yes, we're very interested. So
Okay, good.
what comes of that, I don't know.
Okay, ready to move on?
Mhm.
All right. So special town meeting, I already talked about that. Let's see, David, goals and objectives?
Yeah, so at our last meeting, I think that there was some concern about the form. As I understand it, everybody now is comfortable with that form. So
Okay.
comfortable, if not content or happy.
Joyce just volunteered to pick the form for next year.
Yeah.
Well, that's only, Joyce just filled it out tonight, and Donald and
Well,
John
I had-
don't have them yet, so I
mine-
mean, the content issue is a,
Can you put them in my box,
Bit of a
David?
fallacy.
I couldn't even download it to look at
Okay.
it.
No? Okay.
I actually had it, I just was writing one last comment.
And I still
The rest
can't
of it was
download the
done-
police department.
I'm sorry, Joyce.
I don't know
It
why.
was done before
Please accept my
tonight, dear.
apologies.
I still can't download the
Dear.
police department even on this computer.
I can't either.
Oh, that type of file?
Yeah, I don't
Yeah,
know.
you can't on a Chromebook, you need you have to download a special extension. I'll
You
find it
actually
for and
could,
send it to
you actually could,
No.
and maybe that's the point of the
It goes into Word.
evaluation piece of paper, is that it actually correlates with the person that you're doing the goals and objectives to. So,
Right.
I mean, that's what, you know, you have to get that first before you actually do the,
Right, so that's why, so it has these accountabilities and just dropped in their specific goal.
but
You know.
then each person that's gonna be giving us their goals and objectives and their personal goals and everything is going to have to do it to the form so that we can fill it out to that.
Appropriate.
And that's why I waited for Marlo to do his and then completed the form to send it back out to everybody.
Did he have that ahead of time?
No,
This year?
no, he just had his own goals and objectives that he had us approve last
Okay.
year. So that's
Okay.
all it is.
Okay.
So, I mean, is everybody comfortable
Yeah.
running with this for now? And
Sure,
Can I get a copy of it?
maybe.
You can call, we'll talk. Yeah, of course. I'll get you a hard copy.
I think last meeting, didn't they say something about the information for the whole board?
I just found out
Madam
that you couldn't
Chairman.
open an attachment. How was I supposed to know in the absence of you telling me?
Did you call her? Did you
Yeah.
call her and tell her?
You called me about other
Actually,
things, you didn't mention that.
I talked to Jennifer
Okay.
last week, actually.
Okay, so she didn't get it to you yet?
No, she didn't figure it out yet either.
All right, I'll get it to you.
Communication.
I tried it on my,
Here's a communication plan, you
Phone.
can put it in there.
So David, you want to talk about what the plan is then for everybody else?
Yes, so I've presented to you the calendar for the presentation of the fire chief, the police chief, the town administrator, and the building inspector to present their self-evaluation and their proposed goals. And that's charted out in the month of August, and then as I understand it, you'll do the evaluations in the month of August and September. So I've got that sequence all written out for you.
So the idea being,
Where is it?
they come in and do a
It's in
self-evaluation.
your hands, it's a piece of paper I gave
Yeah,
you
it was in our
tonight.
inbox. There was a schedule. So they do their self-evaluation based on the goals that we already agreed to for last year. Based on we read their assessment, and then we do an evaluation. We present the evaluation to them, and then they talk about their goals for the upcoming year, under the theory that if there's feedback that would suggest the goals that they're prioritizing maybe should be changed, then they have an opportunity to do that. And then we just do the same thing next year. Right? Yep.
Sure.
Okay. Communication plan?
Communication plan, okay. Very briefly, because the hour is late,
yeah, I got that.
it's, the select board has embarked on a project of communicating better with the voters and improving in communication within town government. I encountered a communication plan when I was in California last. I talked to my friends in California government about how it's used. It seemed like the ideal plan for the town of Hadley. I did a little bit of Google research and found out that this is very much a West Coast and Midwest phenomenon, that there is no such thing as a communication plan other than emergency communication
You're not
plans.
trying to win us over with that argument, are you?
In this,
California's gonna get
Yeah,
dropped off.
California and Midwest, if you say Amherst has it, we're really dead.
No,
So this communication plan that we're looking at here is something that you've devised.
yes, so I've lovingly ripped it off from the city of Ashfield, Oregon. Then created it right-sized it for the town of Hadley. And I think that it goes a long way towards enhancing, in a very focused and efficient way, our efforts to communicate with the public, giving the public opportunities to communicate back to town leadership, enhancing communications internally, as well as giving you a broad range of tools so that you can get your message out to specific audiences by various media and with different levels of impact.
So just putting that back into English, because it's getting late.
Yeah.
Yeah, Jerry's almost ready for his motion to adjourn here. I can see it in his eyes.
So it looks like what you've done here is you did almost like a mini SWOT analysis for various departments specific to communication, saying this is working, this isn't working. And then, so wouldn't this kind of lend itself almost to a communication improvement team of some kind?
Sure.
I mean, because otherwise, I mean, thank you, you did a lot of work on this, and I read through it and agreed with a lot of your
I
assessments.
thought it was pretty good.
Yeah,
I thought it was exactly what we were looking for in communication in what we have implemented already.
Right.
I think you just put it into writing on.
Well, this is also a bit of a stretch. This outlines things that we're not currently doing, and so it is
That's what I meant,
it's a commitment of resources to effectively communicate with the public, particularly since you don't see a reporter here. We're relying upon Hadley Media to get the message out to the viewers out there, but in the old days, a reporter would come in, they'd do a story. If we worked cooperatively with the reporter, they'd do a reasonably good job of informing people about what's happening in their local government.
Well, that's why nobody reads the paper anymore, because they don't come to any of the meetings.
Well, they
get the
don't
real
come to
meat
the
of it.
meetings anymore, and so I think it's up to us, if we really are truly committed to the process of communicating effectively with the public, that we need to be able to do that in a way that is focused, efficient, effective, and having a plan gets you away from the ready, fire, aim approach, which sometimes we get ourselves into, and much more into a ready, aim, fire approach, so we can get our message to the right people at the right time, effectively and efficiently.
All right, so what do you want to do with this?
To adopt
We
it.
were
Take it
gonna-
under advisement.
I kind of like it.
It's good.
You don't want to adopt the
Not tonight, it's just first time I've seen it. I
Alright.
mean, I read it today, but I mean,
Probably there's,
see if you have any additions,
Okay.
deletions.
I think this is
Did
the
you read it
second
all?
time.
I didn't read the whole thing.
this is the second time
I didn't
you've
get
seen it.
to-
I showed you an earlier draft. This was kind of also propelled by, and this is not the reason why I did this, but I saw there was additional value with compliance with the MS4 permit, so there's a communications component to that compliance requirement, and I thought that also lent some urgency to getting this done now as opposed to waiting for a later date.
Okay. Well, it sounds like, Joyce and I are ready to pull the trigger, but if you guys aren't, we can put it on for next week for a
I'm
vote.
completely comfortable with you taking it under
You guys think we should be
advisement.
putting door hangers and flyers out? I mean, I think this should be
We do
tweaked.
put out flyers
We
in
do
our
that
water.
already.
We do when there's a water break or sewer
Yeah, we
break or
do
something
put
like
those
that.
out.
Well, that way it gives people time to go through, if anybody has any questions, direct
Sure.
them to David.
Yeah.
And then we'll put it up for a vote at the next agenda. Is that
Sure.
okay?
Sure.
You good with that, Chair?
I am.
Okay. All right, thank you, David. And then the financial management team formation.
So this is a recommendation that came out of the Commonwealth, the Community Compact report. Let me grab the right folder here. Okay, so we have the financial management team. It's basically an ad hoc group of people that I assembled a couple of years ago in order to advise me as to broad strategic issues having to do with the town of Hadley. The Department of Revenue, when they came out here to do our compact best management practices analysis, like that, but they recommended that we formalize this rather than a group that meets whenever I need them, which is once or twice a year. Have a formal group that meets monthly and goes over the financial management issues of the town so that things get done in a timely manner, and that financial management is thought about in a collaborative and strategic way. The way that they wrote this up is that they thought, it gives one the impression that this would supplant the tri-board. That's not my recommendation or intent at all. I see that this is a companion to the work of the Selectboard, of the tri-board, of the Finance Committee, and would focus in on some of the bigger issues that you're bringing up. So, for example, tonight you talked about the split rate for the taxes and whether that's something that's worth doing. That would be an excellent issue for the financial management team to look into and give you some sort of guidance back. I understand that you would like to have an independent body and professional body take a look at this, but the financial management team would be a solid ally in giving you the best information so that you can make the right decisions affecting the town finances and the taxpayers' financial commitment to the town.
Okay, so any questions for David?
Yeah.
Comment?
Explain to me the difference between what our finance committee is reviewing and what the financial management team consists of.
Well, I originally put together the financial management team because it could meet very quickly. It was advisory to me. It gave me the opportunity to then bring information, complex information, back to the Select Board and the Finance Committee. Issues having to do with OPEB strategy, issues having to do with we were talking about the disconnect between the VADAR system over at the school and the VADAR system over here. That's something that the financial management team worked on. Most recently, we worked on issues having to do with the debt analysis for the proposed borrowings that are coming up. It would be an opportunity for us to focus in on one or two specific projects, get really into it, and then come back with recommendations to the Finance Committee and to the Select Board.
Well, David, I mean, I think that the really easy differentiators is the Finance Committee exists to be the watchdog for the taxpayer. They have a very specific mission, where this is really an operational, day-to-day, it could be day-to-day, but hands-on working team.
Yep.
And it also instills discipline so that, it's very easy at a Finance Committee meeting to have a conversation and realize the assessor's not in the room, or the treasurer's not in the room.
Aren't you addressing a lot of these meetings at your staff meetings?
Staff meeting doesn't give us the opportunity to delve into some of these complex issues with enough time to really thrash them out. Staff meetings are helpful and important, and I wouldn't do away with them, but you devote an hour to every issue that every department can think of at the time, so you don't have enough time to get into it.
If we had a finance director, you wouldn't really need half these people, and they'd just be doing it in the normal course of their business, but we don't have one.
Yeah.
It's what they've offered, so.
Okay, so you're looking for action on this, or advisory?
If you want to take it under advisement, that works for me.
Ready to vote.
All right.
Make a motion to accept the financial management team.
Second.
Okay, motion made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
No, I want a little more time, but you got 4 votes. No then.
Okay, well, if you have
No, that's
questions or
fine.
concerns,
No, that's fine.
you sure?
Yeah, I'll get a hold of you.
What's more time giving you a watch?
Here.
That's
More
for
what?
John.
More
She's
time.
giving you more time, John.
Okay, we're getting punchy, so.
That was his idea.
That concluded the regular agenda. David, is there anything hot on your administrative report that you'd like to update us on?
All town meeting all the time on various projects moving forward. I guess the big announcement that we have is that the solar project by Eversource at the intersection of Moody Bridge Road and South Maple Street has now been pulled off the table. They've withdrawn that project. So that 1 megawatt facility that was going to clutter up the viewscape there is no longer a concern. I know that this is something that people...
Is it gonna be a postponement or is it a definite withdrawal?
It's definitely withdrawn, and you have that in writing from Eversource.
Yeah, I read the.
But no, it's been put on, it's been withdrawn, but they haven't ruled out a future possibility
They
of it.
still own the land.
They
Yeah.
still own the land.
Okay,
But
that's,
Kestrel's talking to them actively, I
that's,
guess.
They
that's
still
what
own the
I'm,
land.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One burning announcement I have is that I think we should all thank Terry Yushko for spending her birthday with us.
Oh, please.
Happy birthday.
I thought you said the day after your birthday. It's your birthday today?
This is.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
Thank you.
Many more to come.
Wish me belated.
How about
Mine
Bay
was
Road?
yesterday.
Joyce, you don't want to say anything about Bay Road?
21 again?
Bay Road, yes, we have one lane open already, that's fixed, and I think we're looking to, can our ambulances and things go over
Yep,
that now?
there's no weight restriction on that
No
bridge.
weight restrictions, away we go. Fire truck and ambulances.
Good. Okay, anything else anybody have?
Just have one condolences this evening to the family of Mark Nabala. We do extend our condolences to them.
All right, if nothing else, a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second?
Yes.
Okay, motion made and seconded,
Aye.
all in favor?
Aye.
Good night, everybody.
Gerry was numb on that one.
I've been told I motioned too many things. The senior center told me they were sick of my motions.
Oh, no.
Everybody's sick of me.